Another edition of Todd's Odds brought to you by FanDuel with our sports betting expert, Todd Fuhrman, who is a noted Vegas Golden Knights season ticket holder. My first question for you, Todd Fuhrman, is that a Mark Stone jersey under that shirt you're wearing?
No, Jay, I couldn't get the official spleen package offered up for my jersey, so I don't view it as truly authentic this time of year. But unlike everybody else on the Golden Knights that was active in the Game 1 lineup, I never spent any time on LTIR this season. I fought through the adversity and played hurt.
That's exactly what you always do. Let's talk NFL draft, Todd. We know Caleb Williams is going first overall to the Bears. After that, it gets much more interesting. Let's dive into some of the other potential quarterbacks and the movement that's been happening just over the last couple of days. The odds have really moved here. Between Drake Maye of North Carolina and Jayden Daniels of LSU, Washington holding that number 2 pick. You can see the odds shrunk over the last week, grew again on Tuesday. Help us make some sense of this movement, Todd, and who would you put money on to go at number 2?
I mean, if you're not lying, you're not trying this time of year as an NFL GM. So I think you always want to put your draft capital on the table and hope someone's willing to blow your socks off. You're not going to rule out if someone wants to trade multiple number 1s to get into that 2 slot that you're going to commit to a player. But I think at this stage of the game, Jay, that Jayden Daniels to the Washington Commanders already feels like a certainty, and you're seeing that reflected in the betting market. That graphic just shows the volatility that you see in a market that's so much different than betting an individual game, whether it's a side or total. And I think Jayden Daniels can start looking for residence somewhere in the DMV at this point because he will be the man under center for the Washington Commanders.
Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. There's been tons of trade talk about them leading up to this draft. They are the favorite at plus 170 to land J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, the national champion. The Patriots, the Giants, the Broncos are right behind the Vikings. Todd, who's going to land J.J. McCarthy this Thursday?
So I think the Vikings are rightful favorites, Jay, with that particular price. But I know what everyone wants to point to is, well, the Vikings may have to trade up to that 5 spot to get J.J. McCarthy because the Chargers are willing to deal down in the draft because they think they'll be able to find an offensive lineman. J.J. could still very well end up with the Vikings, but they may not have to move out of that 11 spot because you look at the other teams that are drafting inside the top 10, and none of them are truly quarterback needy. So maybe it would be the Raiders that could deal up, but they've been attracted to Jayden Daniels in the past, and his name had circulated there. It's just wild for all the speculation. But because, Jay, we love to live in the theater of the absurd, and I'm sure NFL insiders don't want to entertain the idea, what better way than Coach Harbaugh being reunited with J.J. McCarthy as a member of the Chargers should they get an overwhelming package from the Vikings for Justin Herbert. That number's come down a little bit from 100 to 1 down to 40, but I would not put the Todd Fuhrman stamp of approval on making that particular wager.
That would be absolutely mind-blowing if that occurred. I love these types of bets, Todd. The over-unders on draft position. Bo Nix of Oregon, a lot of talk about him early in the year, a little less now, but he is one of the 6 potential first-round QBs on Thursday. What do you think the chances are that he falls out of the first round on Thursday night?
It always feels like when we get close to the draft, quarterbacks are the stock that falls more so than some of the skill position players and the guys that are on the offensive or defensive line. It was only last year, Jay, where Will Levis's over-under was 7.5, and he had to wait until the second day of the draft to have his name called. I look at Bo Nix, and while I think he could be a consummate pro in any locker room, he brings that kind of leadership to maturity. But Bo Nix is 24 years old. We may have already seen the best of Bo Nix. I'm not sure he can make the kind of throws that you need to at the next level. So for me, I'd be betting him over his draft position and be willing to pay that he doesn't come off the board on day 1. I think Bo Nix should be waiting a little bit longer than people anticipate to come off. If there was a quarterback that slid back into that first round, I think Michael Penix is a little bit more ready to step right in and make some of those throws outside the hashes that NFL GMs want to see from a first-round draft pick.
Either way, we're broadcasting the draft here on TSN, so we're hoping as many quarterbacks in the first round as possible. That's what people love. You can see our show immediately after the draft. Todd, when it comes to the theater of the absurd, you've got the lead role, my friend.
Hey, look, I mean, if I can be a leading actor at any time, Jay, regardless of how budget the production is, I am going to sign on that dotted line, my friend.
There it is. There it is. Todd Fuhrman, one of our favorites. When we return, the highlight of the night.